Welcome, fight fans. Elton John's been in the news lately this week and reminded me of an old interview from Russian television that Mike Patton, lead singer of Fate No More, did. Thought I'd share this with you as a nice intro to this week's betting predictions. So here it is.
Was he really serious being after you and putting the case in the court? Like, what was the actual problem between his orchestra and...
I don't know. I was just in a club once, trying to meet a friend.
Ну, честно сказать, непонятно. Я однажды был в клубе, должен был встретиться с другом.
I went into the bathroom.
Пошел в туалет.
I was going to take a pee.
Вот, ну, извините, мне приспичило.
Да. And there in the urinal, you know where you go, was this man. He was on his knees and his face was in the urinal.
Вот, и там, значит, стоял этот мужик, то есть лицом прямо в писсуаре на коленях.
It was like a horse when he drinks out of a trough, you know.
То есть очень похож был на лошадь, которая пьет из корыта.
And I thought maybe he passed out. Like, what the hell? Maybe
вот,
should help this guy.
Я так подумал, что, может быть, человеку
So I got his head and pulled it up. And it was Elton John.
Взял за волосы, значит, приподнял. А это был Элтон Джон.
Собственно говоря, hi, Elton John, how are you, man? And he turned to me and he spit on my face.
Вот, он ко мне повернулся и плюнул мне в лицо.
Вероятно, тем, что он пил из... Так. And that was that fight. Это было...
So there you go. A little bit of Elton John trivia for you. But aside from that, we got a fight card this weekend. And last week didn't go too well, let's be honest. But this week's going to be better. There was some big upsets last week. We didn't expect Carla to underperform so much, or that she would be outclassed so much by the Dread Chick, who was really outstanding. And RDA, he put Pettis in his place pretty fast. RDA might stay champ for a while. So those upsets were kind of hard to predict. But this week, I don't think we're going to quite have so many upsets. I'm going to start with Silva and Koscheck. Eric Silva, one of my favorite fighters, a real sparky guy, just flies out of the blocks, gets stuck into his opponent, has resulted in him gassing, of course, and people accuse him of not having cardio, but it's not really a cardio issue. What it is the amount of energy he puts out in a short period of time. The body just can't keep that up, and what Eric Silva needs to do is he needs to finish his fights early, otherwise he gets into trouble later after expending so much energy. And he usually does finish his fights early. I mean, he's a top-class fighter. He's good striking, he's got power, he's got good jiu-jitsu, and he's fighting Koscheck. I find it hard to understand how Koscheck has taken this fight. We all know GSP fucked up his eye with the first jab in his fight, and ever since it's been bothering him. And he fought a few weeks ago, and I mean, he looked like he had serious problems with his eye still. He spent half the fight touching it and twitching and sniffing and blinking. And I mean, it doesn't seem, I don't know how he got cleared by the medical commission to come into this fight, but he did. Maybe he's just he could be either fighting for pride or he's fighting for a paycheck, because his last few fights really haven't excited anyone. He's a fighter on the way out. I can't see him beating Silva. I really can't. I don't think Koscheck can take a punch too well anymore. I think he's susceptible to the submissions as we saw, and I think Silva is going to sub him. I think it's going to happen in the first round. That is what I am betting on. Koscheck doesn't have enough game to beat Silva anymore. He might have once upon a time, but not anymore. Okay, Amanda Nunes is fighting Shayna Baszler, the Queen of Spades. Yeah, well, the Queen of Spades, had a big reputation on coming into tough, and that quickly dissipated after she basically lost. I think she lost all her fights in there. Maybe she only had one. I can't really remember, but yeah, she underperformed, and she's been in the game a long time. She's experienced. I mean, she has built up some technique, but she doesn't have any explosion, really. She doesn't have that natural athleticism. And Nunez does have that. She's powerful. And she almost finished Katzengano in the first round, and only got beaten in the third round with a typical Zingano comeback. I reckon Nunez is going to put Baszler away quite early in this. Not sure what tactic Baszler's going to adopt. Might go for the takedown. It's going to get stuffed. She doesn't have the power or the force to get her down in the early round. So I'm going for Nunes to win by KO in this fight. And hard to say what round, but I think she's going to knock her out. Don't think Baszler has got the game to last the pace with an animal like Nunes. Nunes is an animal, and she is a prospect. We might see her facing Ronda Rousey in a year or two. Ronda's still in the game. Okay, we got Trinaldo. Trinaldo is fighting Francisco Mazaranduba. He's fighting Akbar Arreola, the Mexican. And Trinaldo he's a tough guy. He's a submission guy. And, you know, a lot of his fights go to decision. He's got subbed a couple of times. He's middle of the road, if you ask me, is Trinaldo. And Akbar Arreola is an interesting guy. He submitted Eve Edwards in round 1 of their last fight in November. I think Edwards retired after that. He went 3 rounds with Thiago Silva. Lost a decision. And before that, he was coming off 3 submission wins, 2 armbars and a rear naked choke in various organizations. Now, he's susceptible to maybe leg kicks and stuff like that, but I think he's going to win this fight by decision. I think Trinaldo's going to be hard to sub. Trinaldo's good on the ground. I'm not sure Arreola's going to be able to rock Trinaldo enough to get him dazed enough to submit him, but I think he's going to win the 3 rounds with a lot of takedown attempts. And, decision win for the Mexican. And they want the Mexican to win the UFC. They have enough Brazilians. They need a couple of Mexicans in there to boost the old audience for future cards. Boost the excitement. Alrighty. The last fight I'm going to call tonight, because I don't want to call some of these undercard fights that I haven't seen some of these guys fight. Mafra, Carrizosa, haven't seen those guys fight. Pepe and Feely is a tough one to call, and Santos and Martin is a tough one to call. And I haven't seen enough of any of those guys to really get a confident decision on them, on how the fight's going to go. But Damien Maia and Ryan LaFleur, and this is an interesting one, because 2 of these guys are master grapplers. LaFleur has a serious wrestling pedigree. He is undefeated, and he's winning a lot of his fights by decision. In fact, he's won his last 4 fights by decision. And if you look at Damien Maia, well, he's also a master grappler. He's one of the best grapplers in the UFC. The problem is, you know, when he initially came into the UFC, he used jiu-jitsu and he was outstanding, and he's just submitting guys. I think he submitted 5 guys in a row when he first joined the UFC, and there's some decent guys on his list of wins. You know, Ryan Jensen, Ed Herman, Jason McDonald, Nate Quarry, submitted Chael in 2009, Dan Miller, Kendall Grove, Stun Gun pulled out of that fight with an injury, remember. Submitted Rick Story. Decision John Fitch. But then he had 2 losses. Jake Shields, a split decision. Rory McDonald, unanimous decision. He won his last fight by decision. Now, I reckon this is going to be a stand-up fight. It's going to be like minus by minus equals plus. Grappler by grappler equals striking match. Now, to be honest with you, even though LaFleur is undefeated, I would fancy Maia to submit him if they did get to the ground. You know, his jiu-jitsu isn't going to be up there. His wrestling is going to be up there at Maia's, but jiu-jitsu, no. So LaFleur's not going to want to. He's not going to want to go for the takedown, I don't think. And Maia, he likes to box now and again. He's just like Koscheck decided to morph from a wrestler into a striker. Maia tried to do it. He took a few losses as a result of it. I think Maia is going to try and stand for the most part, and if he gets the opportunity for a takedown, he's going to go for it. But overall, I'm picking this as a decision win for Maia, just because he's a little bit too much experience for LaFleur, I think. Now, LaFleur, okay, he's able to, decision the likes of Doomsday, Court McGee, Ben Alloway, but those guys, Doomsday's a decent fighter, but, he's susceptible to being out wrestled and just stuck on his back for a while, I think Maia, you can't be putting Maia on his back too much in a fight, asking for trouble. So LaFleur's going to be relying on his stand-up, and it's not going to be good enough to get him a win. Just ain't going to be good enough, Ryan. Your cool name is not going to pull off the victory for you this time. So that's it. Only a couple of fights called, but they're going to be money fights, and your bank account is going to grow. I'll be back. Adios.